the story that still haunts Mr.Ballen. YouTube frogs. Anybody watching after the fact, post this live stream. If you guys want to watch the original video, it would be the first link in the description. If you guys do stick around and you enjoy my reaction to this video, feel free to drop a like and a sub. It would mean a lot. And if you want to get involved in this content live as it happens, feel free to check out the Twitch stream. I go live almost every single night. And I apologize for any audio mishaps. I currently have an ear infection, so I'm not wearing headphones. And this shit's hooked up to my speakers. I don't know how well mixed it's going to be. Okay, let's get into it, chat.
Why do you think people have such morbid curiosities for some of the stories? Because I listen to them, and I have to, sometimes it screws with my mind a little bit. I stop listening, and I'm like, that kind of fucked with me a bit. I don't feel like more positive at it. Like, I'm curious about it.
I love it, for one.
But it's like true
Graham
crime stuff.
struggles.
It's like, yeah, I do struggle with it.
It's funny. A lot of people that I speak to that are fans of the show or the genre talk about it being their like comfort show, which seems totally backwards because the content literally is like 99% somebody dies in some horrible way. Like that's the gist of the content. But I think that as humans, there is a desire to be frightened in a safe, controlled environment. And what's more terrifying than seeing real people that had something kind of random and abrupt that could happen to anyone happen to them? Someone breaks into their house, or they like, they go to some off limits part of a park and like they fall off a cliff or something. It's like, it feels like that could happen to me, and I can learn about it and kind of almost live vicariously through this story, but I'm safe. I'm like, my guide, in this case me, is like telling me, like buddy to buddy, telling you a story about this horrible thing, and you almost get like the thrill of fear and anxiety, but it's not real. It's the same reason we flock to like scary movies in movie theaters. It's because you want to be scared, but only because it's actually not real. But your brain processes fear the same way, but you're in this controlled environment. So you get real fear, real kind of shot of adrenaline, but the comfort of real safety. But I do think it's kind of like a human trait. I don't think that the genre is like been forced upon people. I think that humans have a morbid curiosity, and I don't think
I was going to say such a morbid curiosity that they like people need to constantly be like, I don't know, pressing that shit, you know? Like I used to be a wuss when it came to horror stuff, and I still am for the most part, but it's definitely like I've grown more of a tolerance, so I keep looking more and more and more into like more scary stuff, and I'm more intrigued, and I want to watch more crazy Mr. Ballen videos, you know what I'm saying? Chris, be a good BF, or Chucky will bury you in the garden and then share a bed with someone who skin jacked you. What? It's like when you find out your partner's cheating on you, you go through every suspicious thing they did. Like, oh, that's when they were cheating. Oh, word to bro. I like being scared because it makes me feel alive. Oh, I think that's a good point too. Yeah. I also feel like it kind of grounds you. You know, a lot of these like stories. A lot of these stories kind of make you feel and like live in the moment exactly, you know? And I think it's like a big part of life, and like some of the most enjoyable moments in life is where you feel like you're connected to that moment in time. Because when you're listening to a horror story, like especially from Mr. Ballen, you're like paying attention to almost every single word, especially for Mr. Ballen, who tells the story really well, who's like an amazing storyteller. You're paying attention to every single word. You're listening. You're like fully there in that moment, you know? Then I'm going to go listen to some scary stories myself to put myself to sleep because I'm tired as fuck. Have a good rest of your stream, Chris, and have fun chat. Night night. Yo, Moo Moo. Thank you for hanging, homie. Appreciate you. Sleep well. Have a great day tomorrow. Yeah, appreciate you, gangster. I've run out of scary and need to find more scary. My tolerance has been met. Yeah. I used to watch the creepypasta stories as a kid. Yeah, I wasn't ever really a fan of the creepypasta stuff that much because I really liked the stories that were, like, real, you know? Like, I was like, I want the real stories. I think that's why I liked Corpse Husband so much before he got, like, super huge, right? Is because allegedly all of his stories were, like, either real or, like, you couldn't, like, really immediately tell, at least for me when I was younger. You know, I was probably, like, 14 or 15 watching that. I like couldn't tell the difference. And he would be like, I try and find real stories, you know. They can be real. I mean, true. True. Anyways, let's continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop Pauline that long.
I think that's wrong. I think it's part of being
Ballen,
human.
sorry.
Do you think that seeing and experiencing, obviously with your tour or your Navy SEAL stuff, and then also with like constantly being subjected to all of this like very morbid, very kind of almost like gruesome, horrific stuff, do you think that has any effect on you in general?
Sometimes it does, but it's pretty, I think I stay pretty disconnected from the material when I'm not like doing the job of creating content and being Mr. Ballen. Like when I'm with my kids and my wife, like I'm just John, I'm dad. It doesn't feel like one world kind of comes into the other. However, I would say when I cover stories that have distinct parallels to my own life and my own loved ones, it's really hard to like, I barely ever cover content about kids getting harmed because I just can't do it. It's too close to home for me. I also, periodically will cover, I covered the story about this woman who, now I'm forgetting her name, unfortunately, but she was this wonderful woman in her 60s. She went hiking. She's a great hiker, did it all the time for exercise. And she got lost in this park, broad daylight. Like, this is not some gnarly place like in Pacific Northwest. It's like somewhere in like New Hampshire or something. But she gets lost, and being a seasoned hiker, she decides to stay put because she knows someone's going to come look for her. She's got family that knows she's out here. She's going to wait it out. And so she just sets up her camp. She's got food, she's got water, and she just sits there. But unfortunately, no one ever finds her. And she says she stays there for a month, and she didn't know it. She was only like less than half a mile from the trail. But she didn't know she was that close. And over the course of her time in this tent, where she really never moved, she kept a journal of each day, and she was just so graceful, like dealing with what was actually happening to her. She clearly recognized about 3 weeks into her stay that she wasn't going to be found, and she now was too weak that she couldn't realistically attempt an escape. And so she knows she's going to die. But the way she wrote in the journal was so profound. It was, all of it was for her kids, for her husband. The language was so like positive and reminding them that she's fine, she's safe, no one's gonna harm me, I'm gonna pass away in my bed. But it's like the grace that she handled the ending with is just, it was incredible. And she reminded me so much of my mom. My mom, it was like telling a story about my mom dying in this horribly tragic way. And that one just really messed me up. It stuck with.
Dude, that's insane, bro. I mean, like, there's, like, people that do shit gracefully and, like, go through bad times, but, like, knowing, and also the heartbreaking fact that she was, like, half a mile away, and also the fact that, like, why wouldn't people go looking for her? I wonder if, like, he actually fully covered that video on his channel. I don't know it because I'm not super familiar with Mr. Ballen, but that's a really, really interesting story. Chad, does anyone here know? I grew up with shows like, oh wait, you said, Grinish, I used to avoid scary things because I just hated it. And then I found horror literature, and that literally drew me into wanting to hear and read and just have scary things. Dude, hell yeah. I grew up with shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Unsolved Mysteries, Goosebumps. I enjoy the genre. Hell yeah. No, Goosebumps literally ruined me as a kid. Yo, I used to be a chicken when it came to that stuff. But Goosebumps weirdly didn't mess with me too much. Oh, the audio might be low. I'm sorry. Everybody watching.
With me for a long time, and it's not nearly the most gruesome story I've told. It's just, it feels like I'm seeing a bit of my life in this story, and those are the stories that stick with you.
The one that kind of messed me up was the one, actually, it was like a mall, and the guy goes through this one door and gets sent into this corridor where it's just like a catacomb of just all of these different, it's just like cement walls, cement floor, cement ceiling, and he just sits down somewhere in this chair and he never gets found.
Yep.
That was the one I still think about. I'm like, Jesus.
I know. No, there was like, there's a mall in Australia that is famous. It's this huge mall, and they have like 8 miles of like, imagine here's like the outline of the mall, pretend it's a perfect rectangle, like bordering it, but unseen to the public are all these passageways for staff and storekeepers to move around away from like the main walking areas. You can like access your store and whatever from anyways. But there's 8 miles of it. and it's really not patrolled, I suppose. There's not cameras there, and this guy was senile, and he wandered into this area, and there were enough doors that were locked around him that he just sat down thinking, okay, someone's going to find me, but they didn't. And it was just like, again, just like so
Just kinda
sad,
waiting.
you know? And then when he was found, he's like just hunched over on his chair, just sitting there for like a month.
Jesus Christ, bro. Bro, the Iced Coffee Hour podcast is really sick. I've only watched a couple of their episodes, mostly the ones with Dr. K, but I do really like I really like their podcast. I want to watch it more. Oh, and me and Chucky watched the one with Sam and Colby. My favorite story from Mr. Ballen so far is the one about an elderly man who decides to go hiking alone through a very difficult trail in California in winter. Various people he meets on his travels warn him and it advise him to go back because storms are coming, but he stubbornly refuses and keeps going forward. This man ends up trapped at the bottom of a ravine and dies. Then exactly 1 year later or two, nonetheless, the day and month coincided. A lost couple end up in the same ravine, finds the man's diary along with some matches. The boyfriend then decides to use the matches to provoke a fire as a signal. The rescuers arrived and saved them thanks to the stubborn man who died in the same place, but at a different time. Damn. Whenever I go hiking, I hear Mr. Ballen narrating my story. Yo. It's going to be me. Now, for me, the worst story was the one of the older guy who, before surgery, was given a drug that paralyzed him, but the doctors forgot to give him the medicine. I couldn't imagine the pain he went through during those 16 minutes. Oh my God, bro. The one where the crane operator on the oil rig that wasn't paying attention pulled the guy through the green hole got me. I think a bigger part of the fascination is a survival mechanism. We want to know and understand these tragedies to ultimately avoid finding ourselves in the situation. We think of ways to avoid getting in the situation or think of ways to get out of the type of situation should we find ourselves in it. Yeah, I agree. I think that's another thing that I wasn't even thinking of. Like, I think it is. Ooh, another Mr. Ballen. Or Mr. Ballen. Sorry, I keep saying Ballen. I don't know what it is. I don't know why my fucking brain is like this, dude.